I think it still says loading on my end. So what's up, man? I think we're live.
Oh, the intro didn't go through or what?
No, well, my thing says it still says it's syncing. So I don't know, but I think we are live. Um, I could see it on the Instagram thing right here. So we're live. How you been, man?
Busy.
Busy? Yeah.
You?
Um, yeah. Well, busy with some stuff at work, but also kind of uh for the workers it slows down because of all the rain. But yeah, been busy, just working and all that. So far can't complain, right? Got a job. Yeah. So, man, how you been keeping your eye on things or your ear on things? Either or.
Yeah, here and there. There's a lot happening and not happening at the
Mhm.
same. But just been paying attention on how a lot of people are reacting.
Mhm.
I think I don't know if you can notice this in your line of work, but I notice it in ours. There seems to be like a lot of uncertainty, and
Mm.
a lot of people are being like real conservative with the way that they're spending their money.
Mhm.
It seems to be slower than it usually is, and I don't know if a lot of people are experiencing that throughout all the different types of works of in the industry, different industries and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, I noticed that you know, yeah, some of the people have been kind of talking about um I guess it's not that it's slow, but it's not as busy either as I think they might think it would be.
Hmm.
And I think I've seen them that like yeah, they kind of worry a little, right? And then they hear about you know, what they hear on the news, right? They're probably I mean, I haven't really watched Univision recently, but I can imagine what they're saying about tariffs and how that's affecting quote unquote how that's going to affect the cost of everything, right? Because that's kind of the angle that they use when they even in English, right? English channels when they're talking about tariffs, it's
Hmm.
the consumer, the us, we're going to get the brunt of that blowback from that, right? So I can only imagine what they're hearing in on the Spanish media.
Yeah, one of the things that I noticed is that um, the administration puts out like memos explaining what the course of action is, or a plan.
Hmm.
And it's like when they're asking questions, they didn't even read it and understand it. I mean, I'm sure that they understand it, but they didn't read it to the point where that's what they're conveying to their audience.
Hmm.
More than anything, they read it and they understand it, and they still ask questions that are being answered in those memos and those documents just to stir the pot.
Mm.
So something will come up, and I'm like, oh yeah, that got resolved like 3 or 4 days ago, but they're still acting as if it didn't get resolved, and a lot of people are confused.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, they're still trying to figure out, ways and tactics to get people riled up, but I don't think it's well, obviously it's not working because um how many protesters do we see out there, you know?
Mm.
It's
Yeah.
and a lot of these left leaning broadcasters and stuff like that are being let go or put in different time slots and stuff like that, where they're just slowly dying off.
Yeah. No, yeah, you're right. And then right now, well, the protesting that people are doing is, property damage, violent protesting, like, burning all the damaging all the Tesla cars, or I think the one in Vegas where they put a few on fire or something. Like,
Mhm.
but that's
I hadn't seen that, but is that happening a lot? Or I mean, I heard about it, but I haven't.
um before that one, I think that was like one of the major ones that happened, like I want to say 2 days ago.
Mhm,
And yeah, they burned, like, it looked like a good 4 or 5 cars, like, kind of, I think it was at a dealership, right? um the other day we drove by, there's a Tesla dealership over here. I think it was on Saturday, and yeah, there was a group of people out there with their signs protesting. But before that Vegas one with the fire, I had seen a couple of videos of, like, I saw one video of a just like a random dude. He looked homeless. I don't know if he was or not, but that's just how he you know what I mean?
yeah.
Yeah, that's how what he looked like. And he had like a boot or something, and he was walking by Tesla cars, and he was just hitting the vehicles. Um and then I saw a video of a black guy that has a Cybertruck, and he had it white, and he said he took his kid to the doctor appointment, and when he got back to his truck, they had, like, put paint all over it, kind of like fuck Elon, and just
Mm.
just white truck, but they
Vandalized
threw
it.
all kinds of, yeah, just vandalized it, all kinds of paint and all that. So it's weird because you know they're just attacking random people with Teslas, which is the 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 people that yell for tolerance. Now they're triggered by a vehicle because they don't like Elon. And the reason they don't like Elon, we talk about manipulation all the time, is I feel they're misguided. They probably see Elizabeth Warren yelling and Chuck Schumer and all their favorite little politicians there, um, talking about nobody voted for Elon or who put Elon in power, and it's like,
Mhm.
you know those talking points that they use, and people react to that, and they're reacting in a manner that is kind of very
Yeah.
ridiculous. Not kind of.
Well, this is the way that I like to think about it is, the arguments that they make that Elon no one elected Elon
Hmm.
is Elon is working for the person that we elected, and he is directing whatever, that department is doing, Department of Doge. And he said that he was going to create something like that. So that argument, I think, at its face value, when you first hear it, it makes sense because Elon is so popular,
Hmm.
and everybody knows who Elon is, and everybody knows that Elon is, if not the richest person in the world, one of the richest persons in the world. Um,
Hmm.
but if you really think about it, talk about, common sense, is that number one, he's not gonna steal your information to take your, I don't know, $5,000 out of your bank account or $10,000 that you might have. He's
Hmm.
got billions of dollars. I think he might actually be losing money by doing this because it's taking away his focus and attention, in his other businesses. So that argument is, in my opinion, completely uh, not valid.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, I mean, there's so many positions in government that aren't, uh, people aren't elected. They're in there and they're making these decisions, right? I mean, if you want to talk about, like, the whole thing with Joe Biden and the, what is it, the signature,
Oh, the auto pen.
auto pen. Whoever was controlling that, I'm sure wasn't an elected official, but you know what I mean. It
But
happened.
here's the spin on it: is that just like how I said, Elon is working for the president, the one that we elected, right?
Hmm.
So we could be reasonable and go, okay, maybe it was being used in the instructions of Biden, the current president at the time. That's a possibility too.
Yeah.
But, when we have these discussions, or, if you're able to have a discussion with someone that has different opinions, you got to be able to be reasonable and,
Hmm.
not, you know, be completely closed minded to what, another person's point is. But when they come up with these points that they're trying to make, or these questions, they just don't pass the common sense test. It just doesn't make sense.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I think you watch like Stephen A. Smith and stuff like that. Did you see that clip where he went on to The View?
Yes, I saw that one.
And he makes really good points, but now we're saying like a really good point is just speaking common sense to these people that have, what's it called, TDS.
TDS.
And and I don't know how common sense is so controversial for these people, but
Hmm.
it is, man. So
Yeah. No, I think you know when it comes to like Stephen A. I've seen a few different clips of him. But I did see that one on the View, um, and there's still there's still people that I don't think nobody listens to them. You know what I mean? Kind of like a Don Lemon. Let's see who else. Other random people that still insist on everything's about racism. And I think I saw the clip of him saying that everybody that support majority of people that support Trump is because they're racist. So they still push that you know
identity politics.
identity politics. But I don't think a lot of people are listening to that or engaging in that. There's still a small sector of it, right? Like you have that guy in Congress that was interrupting Trump during the
Mm.
address, and I think he tried to make it about race. When they asked him about him the following day or after, whenever they asked him, and it's like, bro, it's not about race. It's just you. We're making a scene. You know what I mean? They asked you cut that shit out pretty much, and you didn't. Like it had nothing to do with race. It's just the action, your decision, the actions you took that had some consequences of you getting removed from the chamber there.
Yeah,
And there's still people that they're keeping that alive basically as much as possible, right?
yeah,
Um, and it's good to see people like Stephen A. Smith. Like you said, we probably don't agree on everything he says, but he does say things that are common sense, or even in a sense, if you listen to the other side, you can have some sort of understanding. You know what I mean? Like, okay, this is why they think this way. You
mhm,
can kind of gauge people or gauge what people are thinking, because it's
mhm,
not just it's not just me and you here that, oh, we like Trump, we voted for Trump, and we're happy about what's happening. It's no, it's more than half the country,
yeah,
you know, voted for this guy. So, a lot of all the swing states, went to Trump. So it's not like it was just a random small group of racists. It's just no, it was a lot of people that were tired of all the manipulation, all the BS, and in a sense, yeah, want some sort of common sense changes to happen in this country. Kind of get us back to common sense as a whole, I guess.
yeah. Over the weekend, I came across this interview with Jesse Peterson. Do you know that guy? There's always clips of him when he's telling people in his interviews like shocking things to them. Like, for example, racism doesn't exist,
Mhm.
and he's black, so he's talking to another black person, and it's like their mind is just exploding when he says that. Do you know who he is?
No, I think I would have to, like, look him up to see. The name sounds familiar, but I would have to, look it up.
So he was interview. So Jesse Peterson was interviewing the comedian Jim Brewer,
Uh-huh.
um, the one that came out on Half Baked and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So the interview was really unconventional. It wasn't like the same old questions. It was like, who is Jim Brewer? Who are you? And it makes you like really um, think deeply about what your answer is. And every answer that he gave is like, okay, you said, things that Jim Brewer likes to do or where he came from, but
Mhm.
who is Jim Brewer? And one of them that I thought was really interesting is, do you have your own thoughts? Do you create your own thoughts?
Mm.
And if you really think about that, it ties into um, pop culture, right?
Mhm.
And everything that gets, the manipulation that we've always talked about from the very beginning. And, anybody that might be listening to this, it's like a really good question is like, do you create your own thoughts? And if you think about something, it's kind of like, it is that thought generated off of what you and I are talking about right now? And
Mhm.
it's more than likely it's going to be yes. And then you try to remember or recall a thought that you think you came up on your own, but then you might have been influenced by
Oh,
something
yeah,
else that
yeah.
was going around you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And and that's really interesting because in what we're talking about, the subject that we're talking about is manipulation in politics, let's just say.
Mhm.
And if anybody that really gets upset, when they're talking about politics or their position, is is that really what you think, or was it you know
Mhm.
was that influenced by something other than your own real thoughts, opinions, emotions,
Mhm.
things like that? I think that's, I don't know, I'm weird like that, but to me that's really deep,
Mhm.
and it makes me think.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and I was thinking, and I was like, we don't have original thoughts, man. Like, if you really think that you have an original thought,
Mhm.
I don't know, you have to really think about it,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that's, that's something to think about.
right?
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, I mean, you're right, in one way or another, um, we're either, you know, inf I don't know, influenced, but, like, I guess influenced
Yeah,
by what we hear, what we see. Yeah, there's different so many different aspects of what can kinda guide your mind or your thoughts in a certain direction. Um, so no, I mean, I guess the talking about thinking, I've never thought of it that way.
it's crazy, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's
So,
crazy.
like, everything that's happening, I kind of started thinking about, okay, what things do I not agree with, um, that the Trump administration or Trump has said, right?
Mhm, mhm,
Um, and I mean, he's a lot more diplomatic this time around, but the first time around, you know, the way that he delivers things is not for me. It's aggressive, insulting.
mhm,
Um, you would say not presidential for sure.
mhm,
Um, but that's the opinions that we have been given as to what should be presidential. You
mhm,
know,
mhm,
but policies that I don't agree with. Definitely don't agree with his stance on abortion. Kind of
Mhm.
every politician has caved into that.
Mhm.
Um, and I'm sure there's a lot of other things. Um, and as I was thinking about that, it's kind of like what is influencing my disagreements with that, or having a different um,
Mhm.
opinion on those type of things. And then you start thinking, it's like, okay, well, is it my religion or what I feel from my heart? It's like,
Mhm.
that we don't support abortion, and the mainly it's because it's used as a method of contraception. It's not
Yeah, it's
a
like birth
woman's health.
control.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
But um, I would like to know what the percentages are of it being for women's health, like you know in a way that it's affecting them physically,
Mhm.
as their health, not because, not like per se mental health, that they can't handle having a child, or they're not ready to handle a child, or
Mm.
like that type of stuff. So is my
'Cause
faith
mhm.
influencing those opinions,
Yeah. Yeah,
or
and that just kinda on that where you're talking about, like, the mental stuff, it's like, because in a sense, a lot of people are influenced or conditioned, whatever, to think that, you know, they aren't ever ready to have a baby, that they can't do it, they're not financially ready, they're not this ready, you know what I mean? Like, that's a huge part of it too, and, and I think a message that should be, spread and spoken about more loudly is that, you know, as soon as this is from my personal experience, how I felt it, it's like, as soon as I knew I was gonna be a dad, it's like, in my mind, it's like, "Boom, I'm ready." Like, you know what I mean? Like, there maybe it's just how people think. I don't know, yeah, like, what is it in me that's like, "Okay, I'm ready," and, yeah, I'm gonna do everything I can to make sure, my kid is good. Like, that's kinda like my mental when all that goes down. Um, but there's a lot of people that just hold off because, or don't want to, because they just think I can't have a kid. I'm not ready. But that could be just also being influenced by you know women probably want to have long careers, or be independent, or whatever is the main. They wanna do their thing, so to speak, and that becomes like, "Oh, I gotta do," I don't know. Different things can make them feel like they're not ready, but I feel like, from my experiences, as soon as you know it's gonna happen, I think it's in you. You will be ready, and I think more people need to hear that they will be ready, instead of, it's like fear-mongering about having kids, you know what I mean?
yeah. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Is it's like you're almost, it's like an inconvenience, and it's not going to allow you to achieve the things that you want to achieve.
Mhm,
Is it
mhm,
difficult? Yes. Um, the other thing that you were talking about too is that moment that you find out that you're going to be a father, you're going to have a child. What is it that tells you that you're ready? Is it the people that surround you that make you feel ready? Or is it your heart, your mind actually saying, yes, you are ready?
mm. Yeah,
That,
that's
that's a
that's
trip.
yeah, and that's what I don't, I don't know if it's my mind or my heart, but, like, it kind of feels like it's in a sense both, right? It's like, in my mind, it's like, all right, stop, you can't be a bitch, for lack of a better words. And in my heart, it's like, well, you know, I'm gonna take care of this kid. I'm gonna love this kid, and I'm gonna do everything for this kid. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's a combo. Maybe people maybe you have to have both.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because then if you got the heart, but in your mind's constantly telling you, mm no, not yet. You know what I mean? Or your mind might think you're ready, but then you think you're gonna fail the kid, like, inside. I think you kinda have to have both.
Yeah. There's that one's really interesting for me because do do you think that people take the time to really think about things like that? Like if you were to put a percentage, like out of a pool of 100 people, do
Mhm.
you how many do you think that actually break down thoughts like that? Like, am I
Mm, yeah, probably not a lot.
it
Yeah.
I think, out of a pool of 100, it could potentially be 0
Yeah, I don't think it's a lot. I was thinking more like 20, 25, maybe.
out of 100?
Yeah.
Damn.
I mean, that's, more than 0, but I still feel like that's low. But I think it has to do with, you know, how how you're brought up, how you're raised, also what your parents kinda instill in you, you know what I mean?
But see,
Because
that's so someone would say in that conversation, "Well, it's not you
yeah, yeah,
having
yeah,
those thoughts, it's the influence around you of your parents and stuff like that,
mhm,
damn,
yeah,
yeah.
but, I feel like if, we say it all the time, right? Be the biggest influence in your kid's
Yeah,
life.
yeah,
So, I think if I think the parents have a lot to do with that number, you know what I mean?
mhm,
And
for
if the
sure.
parent isn't, well, they could be influencing them the other way, right?
Yeah,
Because again, all the other avenues that can influence their thought process, not having, oh, you're too young to have a kid, or even the parent telling you, no, you're not ready to have a kid. So even parents themselves can even add on to that. So it's a lot. I think it's a lot that has to kind of,
yeah.
a lot of things have to be on the same, I don't know if you want to call it page, wavelength, or whatever, but you know, it it's interesting.
Yeah. And then here's another one that I just thought about, like, so a kid,
Mhm,
a little boy or little girl, let's just say around 5 years old, you know that they don't have that problem more
mhm,
than likely like adults do. It's they know what they like, they know what they wanna do,
mhm.
they tell you. When they have a question, they just blurt it out. Um, and at what age does that start going away?
Probably your teens, right? Early teens. Because I mean, the way I think about it, it's like, you say you hit 13, 14, you're around other kids that age. Let's say if you're in public school, now you're getting, it's not just your way of thinking. It's like, oh, your friend here says this, that friend says that. You know what I mean? Like, so now you're kind of like getting a little bit of so many different views where you start to probably think like, hey, maybe that one does make more sense, right? You know what
Mhm.
I mean? Like, maybe that's what I think. Maybe around like the teenage years.
And okay, so what if I was to suggest when they start going to school? Now their mind is being shaped and molded by
Mm,
whatever curriculum
yeah, yeah, no,
they're implemented, or even, what the teacher, um, believes, or, you know, their way of thinking.
yeah, well, yeah, especially nowadays. You're right.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So, It's a trip, man, and it's like, so if you don't have, so you don't, your original thoughts start going away, and
Yeah.
you start making decisions in the way that you think and you do things and what your morals
Hmm.
are are they yours, and who the heck are you if they're not? That's crazy.
uh, so I mean, well, yeah, it sounds crazy that way.
But the reason I'm saying that is because it's all these people that feel like they have to, like, if you're on one side, you have to be aligned with everything, and if you're not,
Hmm.
it's a huge problem.
Hmm.
And people make it known that it's a huge problem, and you're not
Yeah.
part of the club. And if you dissect things, kind of like how we're talking about this right now,
Hmm.
I think people would come to an understanding where go, I'm my own person. I am, you know, like this, and these are my beliefs, like truly my beliefs.
Hmm.
And some of them, let's say 50% align with yours and 50 don't, or different variations of the same opinion with a little tiny twist to them.
Hmm.
And in theory, us understanding that, we should be okay, right? And
Hmm.
I should be understanding of the differences of the way that you think, and you should be um, understanding of the different
Hmm.
things that I believe, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that seems to be like really reasonable,
Hmm.
and all of that is just gone right now.
Yeah. And it's funny you say that because, like, the other day, couple workers were kind of talking to each other about, like, certain things that have been going on recently, especially like on the, as it pertains to Latinos. Um, it was a subject of boycotting like Coke and I forget who else, Target, Starbucks, stuff like that. And they were having the conversation. One guy was kind of asking, right, well, like, why, like, kind of like, why are we doing this? Like, why are you guys so mad at these brands? And the guy starts giving his like, oh, his answers. They don't like the Latino people, yada yada. So kind of like, makes no sense, but that's his way of thinking, right? That's how he sees it. So they kind of go back and forth,
He thinks
and
that's his way of thinking.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So then he starts saying, okay, so what about, like, what did Target do? And then I think his response was something to the effect of, they let the immigration come in when they came by, or something like that, right? And the other guy was like, well, you know, what do you expect them to do? Like, you know, they can't stop them. It's a federal agency. Like, you know, what's Target gonna do? There's nothing they can do in that matter if they're there, right? Um, so they were talking, right, and then just kind of, but they were fine, right? They were just kind of giving each other their kind of thoughts. One was kind of more on this side, the other one was more on that side. And then what I told the guy after was like, I was like, "Look, man, like, you guys talking like that, like, it's good. You guys should talk like that, and then you kind of, you understand each other." And I told him, I was like, "The problem with today society or whatnot is people that, if you don't agree with someone, let's say you didn't agree with him, like you guys didn't in this conversation, um, then one of you two goes and you know gets a mob over here and starts attacking you because you guys couldn't agree." I was like, and I told him, I was like, that's the problem. I was like, but if you guys are able to just talk, you'll see that, like, oh, okay, what he's saying makes sense. And then he kind of understands why it is you feel the way you feel about, certain things. And you can kind of meet in the middle, so to speak, and just better understand each other without having to attack each other. And I told him I think that's the problem with a lot of things today is that if you don't agree, you know, the other side is just coming at you and attacking you, and it just makes things worse. So that's kind of to to a point like a recent example of kind of I feel like what you were kind of talking about.
Yeah. The other thing too is being comfortable with what you really feel.
Yeah.
I was watching a show. There was just a show to kill time, and it was like a reality show. And one person's talking to the other one, and they ask about race or and religion and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And the person that was asking is totally on board with BLM and not religious whatsoever.
Mhm.
Maybe atheist or something like that. And the person that's being asked the question, they go to church. You know what their position is more than likely going to be,
Mhm.
but this person, you could tell that they did not want to answer truthfully the way that they really feel because the other person wasn't going to accept it and probably was even going to reject
Mhm.
the person. And and that's pretty sad because what that does, it obviously stops people from having a real conversation, right?
Mhm.
And then the other people to really get to know them because how do you really know someone if they're holding back and they're not telling you exactly how they feel?
Mm.
And the messed up part about it is that they're not telling you exactly how they feel because they're afraid of the response that you're going to give them.
Yeah.
And then and at the end of it, they end up getting pissed off at the person because it's like you weren't truthful and you weren't, you know, forthcoming, with information from a long time ago. And
Mhm.
that could go for weeks, months, years, decades, and stuff like that. And it's like, just be confident in what you feel. And if people express their feelings and their thoughts and their beliefs truthfully,
Mhm.
it really shouldn't be an issue, man.
Mhm. No, and to kind of piggyback off of that is you also got to be comfortable in hearing someone else that doesn't, you know what I mean? That is the complete opposite of you, you know? You got to be
It goes both
comfortable in that
ways. Yeah.
situation. It goes both ways. And I think the more that people, start to do that, the better, right? But that's kind of like, what we've talked about from the beginning is kind of having not difficult conversations, but like having conversations that people might not want to have or think, oh, I don't want to offend this person or I don't want to end up in a fight, right? And that's where, like you said, right, people don't, they don't share their thoughts, what they're thinking or how they feel about things because they'd rather avoid the fight, you
Conflict.
know, the conflict, yeah, losing a friend, and it just, in a sense, they're not, they're like influenced to really not, be themselves. If you're you know what I mean, if you're not yourself already, because if you don't have original thought, like, then you're really like holding yourself back.
Yeah, I think that's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
And if going back to how many people actually think about this and dissect it to this depth, if more people did it, I think we would have that case where it's like, hey, you know what?
Hmm.
I am going to examine my thoughts and see if I'm being influenced. Because you could be influenced in a good way and in a bad way. Everybody's got a different perspective, but you know, I guess what we're trying to say is that that's healthy. And
Hmm.
what's going on nowadays is not healthy.
Yeah.
So we just need people to be their original selves, man. And unfortunately, with social media and everything, it puts so many different pressures um, on people that they can't be themselves. They're not comfortable with themselves.
Mhm.
And it's like we all have insecurities, right? But
Mhm.
it's like, to what extent, is it affecting the way that we live our life? Because life is short, and before you know it, even if it's 5 years, if it affected you 5 years and you
Yep.
changed your way of thinking for 5 years, that's a long time. But
Yeah.
I guarantee you, there's people that have been like that their entire lives. And
Mm.
like we said, life goes by quick, and you start thinking differently when you start getting older. It's
Mhm.
there's a saying is like, remember I told you, it's like when you're 20, you wouldn't do things that you would do when you're 18. When you're 30, you wouldn't do things that you did in your 20s. When you're
Mhm.
40, you wouldn't do things that you did in your 30s. And when you're 50, you wouldn't do things that you did in your 40s, and so forth and so forth.
Mhm.
So it's an evolution, and the younger that we realize that,
Mhm.
like in our teens or 20s or something like that, I think the better your life is going to be.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's a lot of young people out there that um, are setting good examples, and hopefully, you know, influencing people to have like original thoughts.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just thought that that was really interesting, so I just wanted to bring it up.
No, yeah, no, and it's a good point, because like most important thing of everything, like you said too, it's like time doesn't stop for nobody, and the last thing you want to do is waste. You know what I mean? Imagine the amount of who knows how many families right now are out of touch with each other or just in conflict. Let's just say just for political reasons. You know what I mean? If you want to go back to, 2015 when Trump first announced, that that shattered a lot of, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
friendships, probably families. And you're talking about 2015, 2025. That's already 10 years, you know?
yeah,
And if you, man, if for some, if, for some reason you come across this and you've been like that with your family, yeah, it's not worth it. Time wasted, wasting 10 years in that example. There's so much things you as a family, as friends, memories that you could have made and done and
yeah,
that's more valuable, Yeah, you're not gonna agree on everything and that's fine, you know. I think people have to like we were saying, you gotta be comfortable being uncomfortable in a sense, you know. Not everybody's a bad person. People are influenced by many different things and there's some things that you could disagree on, but does it make that person bad? No, maybe they're just might think they're misguided or whatever it is, right? Whatever you think it is, but I think a lot of times people aren't trying to be mean, aren't trying to be evil. I think people just have had a different perception, a different influence on life, and that's why it's hard to kind of, I don't know if the word is judge or just judging everyone. Yes, there's certain obvious things that are evil, and I don't think anybody should you know condone or whatnot. But for the most part, if you just disagree on something politically or whatnot, that's not no sense for relationships, friendships, families to be damaged because of that.
yeah. I agree.
So, but no, that's an interesting you know thing to think about as far as like your thoughts, being you, being original. You know,
Yeah,
um,
yeah. Because you got to think about this is that there's people that dedicate their lives and careers in studying and learning how to manipulate people, you know?
Mm,
And it's like, do we want to be known as a victim of that? Like, if someone was trying to do that, or let's not just say someone, but um, whatever media, political, um, popular culture, whether it's to, have a certain style, or,
mhm,
so that you could purchase things and be a consumer of something, um, or be a group, be a part of something.
mhm,
It's like no one wants to be a victim of that manipulation.
mhm,
But
mhm,
but if you don't think about it in in that depth, you you're probably a part of that. You're probably a victim of that.
mm. Yeah.
It's like, you know what I mean? I was I was telling Gloria this weekend is that I've been noticing that um, the younger generations, like in their early 20s and stuff like that, I noticed in a certain geographical area, um, in Nevada, they have a lot of random tattoos. It's almost like, when we were little kids and we put like the play tattoos, the ones that you wet,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
like you get them from the ice cream truck or whatever. Um, they just have like random tattoos like that, like,
Mhm.
on their, even on their face and stuff like that. And they stepped up their game as far as like face piercings. It's not, just a nose ring or anything like that. It's like now it's like,
Wherever it fits.
well, I mean, it's really creative. You got the ones in
Yeah,
the
yeah, right
cheek,
here. The dimples.
and the through the, like, a hog ring or whatever with crazy things on it. And then in the ears, it goes in through one and then another hole and stuff like that.
And then connects here.
Yeah, and it's like someone might be telling you, "Well, I'm just being me. I'm being different." And it's like, "Well, no, you're not." It's like you're being like everybody else because it's popular and it's cool. And do those kids actually, and not just those kids, but I'm using this as an example, is, are they really being original? Are they really having original thoughts
Mhm.
in their heads, or is it just because everybody's doing it, so you're gonna you're gonna get a little higher, you're gonna get a little drunk, and you're like, put a Care Bear on my forearm, or SpongeBob on my calf. I don't know.
Ah. Oh god.
You see
No?
what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, man. Hey, you just imagine that at Care Bear. Um, but dude, like that's funny. No, well, not me. I'm what did that dude say? You don't put bumper stickers on a Ferrari. I don't know what that's like.
Where'd you hear that one at?
I think I heard it from a comedian. I want to say Sebastian Maniscalco, I think, on
Oh,
one of
I
his
like them.
specials.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
like
he's like, "You
them.
don't put
Yeah.
bumper stickers on a Ferrari." Dude. So, yeah, I don't got experience on that, you know, on that realm, but,
Well, if you think about it, that's the original you. It's
Mhm.
like,
Yeah.
why are you trying to be different? It's like there's no one else like you.
Yeah. That's true.
Literally, there's no one else with, you know,
This arm.
this arm, this complexion, this dimensions,
Yeah.
features, the way that what your original thoughts would be
Mhm.
if you had original thoughts. Um, your features in your face and stuff like that. Um, there's no one else like it, man. It's like I'm actually I'm the one being different without,
Yeah.
you know, imitating anybody else or what anybody else is doing. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. Oh, man.
What else is
Oh,
happening that's super interesting out there?
well, the deportation stuff. Um, have you I had the video of like one of the videos. There were several videos of some of the guys that got sent to El Salvador, deported there that were basically like, gang members or
Mhm.
whatnot. And, Trump has a deal with El Salvador and they sent him there.
Oh, okay.
And
So
they
were
get
they from El Salvador or they were
th-
from a
there
different
was
country that went to El Salvador?
I want to say 200 or so were from Venezuela.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Tren de Aragua gang
Okay.
members,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
and then I think like 20 or 30 were MS-13.
Okay.
So it was just basically, I don't think for El Salvador is like they could we could send them whoever, and
Yeah.
they're gonna keep them there. Um, but I got the video and I'll play it right now. But the related to that, what I've been seeing is there's a lot of, and not just with this immigration stuff, but with other things that there Trump is trying to do. I don't know if you've heard that, like, there's a lot of judges that try to make a ruling that says no, he can't do that.
Yeah.
And I think that's you see it more, obviously right now, recently you've seen it a lot. Um, but you know, I don't they weren't, the executive has its power, right? Um, the judicial, I don't think in these situations is there's what is it like judicial should know because there's precedents, right? And if things have been
Well,
tried and
Constitution, they should be obviously versed in the Constitution.
yeah,
That's number 1.
yeah. So deporting illegal immigrants, criminal illegal immigrants, I don't think that's one where a judge, I think the judge was in San Francisco, to be honest. A judge in San Francisco should say, no, you can't do that. It's like, hold on, man. Like,
You're supposed to be upholding the law.
yeah, and we're not deporting like fucking
Legal immigrants,
yeah. You're
that
talking
would be
about
illegal.
gang members. You know what I mean? Like people that are pretty wild. So I don't know. I think maybe I'm wrong or something, but I feel like the judicial system has gotten out of hand with that, and it's gotten way too. Um, there's a lot of I've heard this before, and it kind of does make sense a little bit. So who knows? Maybe I'm influenced to think that way. But it's a lot of activist judges, so to
Oh,
speak,
yeah. Yeah.
and this is kind of like you know, in a sense, proving that point. But I don't know. Did you see the videos?
No.
Here, I'll play one of them. This one was. There's other ones that are longer, but this you'll get a good idea of you know what they're doing.
That's El Salvador. It's pretty okay.
Liceo Sortomaya.
Well,
Yeah.
um,
There's like 3 more videos like that, and it's just, you know, I don't
well,
know, what do you think? Yeah, that's in El Salvador.
well. I mean, these people have broken laws through not just one country, but multiple countries trying to get into this country, right?
Mhm.
So if their country doesn't want to take them back, I I really don't see the issue with them being detained
I would have
there
been
and
like,
serving time, right?
yeah, I mean, I don't see issue. Shit, I would have been like, "You didn't wanna just deport me to Venezuela? You wanna just send me back?"
Yeah, then they're begging, for their country to take them back.
Oh, god. No, I mean,
Well,
well,
no, I mean, I'm okay. So, speaking of reasonable, why reasons as to why they shouldn't be taken there, like for reasons that are inhumane.
mhm,
From what I saw, they're getting treated like a detained criminal.
animals.
You know what I'm saying? It's maybe something worse happens in there,
Yeah,
but a lot of people don't know this is that if we saw the crimes that they did,
yeah,
we would be shocked, man. So someone that works in Mexico visited here.
mhm,
They visited our home, and he works in he's like the equivalent of the FBI, I guess,
okay,
in Mexico.
mhm,
And he showed me a video that freaking scarred me, man. And everybody knows this is that I don't have a Facebook. I don't see the crazy videos that are in Facebook, or I don't even know if there's crazy videos in Facebook, to be honest with you. But
mm.
I've seen some
I'm sure
crazy.
there is.
Is it okay? So he showed me a video, dude, of a guy with like a Rambo knife
Mhm,
go to another guy that was being held down on the ground,
damn,
and he takes his heart out right then and there, cuts his chest wide open like if it's butter with that knife, and it happened like this. It
damn,
wasn't like an operation. It was just like savage,
yeah,
just and did the whole thing. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because anybody that wants to defend these people, and that, like, I'm being honest, that didn't look that bad. It looks like they're just being treated like criminals
mhm,
in a prison.
mhm,
Is if we saw one of those guys doing that in a video to another human being,
mm,
and then we start talking about them being treated inhumanely,
mhm.
we wouldn't be thinking that, man.
No, I
If we
mean,
saw the crimes that they actually did.
well, you see, the the girl, right? Was it Laken Riley?
Hmm.
What they did
Hmm.
to her? I mean, that happened here, you know? The other girl, Jocelyn, that happened here. I forget the name of the lady that was set on fire in the train. That happened here. Like, you know, a lot of these guys aren't they if you think they're being treated inhumane, just like you said, imagine the inhumane shit that they do to other people.
Did. Yeah.
Did, yeah, exactly. Um, and it just
And look, it can be it's not even at that level what I described and what I saw in that video, but even if they pistol whipped a woman or another man that wasn't expecting it and really caused some physical harm, robbed them or raped a girl or a woman or a boy even, I don't know, man, there's these sickos. But anyways, we can't lose sight of that, and you know what the messed up part in this, and I told you this when those kids in Chicago were looting and rioting, and it's our justice system here allowed it to happen.
mhm,
That's the jacked up part. That's the messed up part.
yeah,
So we want to blame the officers um, for treating people like they did in that video. You should be protesting freaking all your mayors and governors and
mhm,
politicians that allowed for that crime to happen. Because look, not all crime is preventable.
mhm,
But if you just enforce the laws and the DAs prosecuted the people that they should have been prosecuting and not looking the other way when crimes were happening,
mhm.
well, I mean, what's a good percentage that we can put on that could have been prevented of crime, that could have been prevented? Just like an educated guess.
Jeez, I would say probably like I want to say 75 to 80% because every time you hear, like, especially with the examples I gave, a lot of those guys were like, "Oh, he's been arrested 13 times." It's like,
Yeah.
the fuck, 13? Like, what do like, to your point? Like, maybe you give him one chance. Let's say you're trying to be humane, you give him a chance. Hey, maybe he made a mistake. After two, nah, dog. Some situations, right? The first one. My point is, 13 is you really got to be that lenient. Like, what do you expect to happen?
And
You know?
chances come with the severity of the crime. Dude,
Mhm. Yeah,
you
yeah.
shoplift, okay, let's give you another shot. Okay.
Mhm. Mhm.
But you beat someone close to death,
Yeah.
it's not in the same category.
No.
It's not apples to apples.
Mm-mm. Yeah, depends on every situation, but
What do they say? The punishment has to fit the crime?
mhm. Yeah,
Dude, you're violent?
you got to go.
Mm-mm.
You got to go. And
I
that's the
got
thing too, it's like um and I have to like look into the story like 100% cuz like off the top of my head I don't even know exactly what happened. I kind of got like the little paraphrase version, but I don't know if you heard about the was it a student that was here like on a visa and she was
oh, they were
protesting.
Hamas supporters
Yeah, and
mhm,
then sounds like she got deported or he or she um you know
without knowing too much about it, just
Mhm.
knowing those details.
Yeah, how do you what do you think about that or how do you feel about that?
So Hamas is a terrorist organization, or it's been designated
Mhm,
as a terrorist organization.
mhm.
You support a terrorist organization, you need to go because you got to think about it, dissect it, think about it. What are they against?
Mhm.
And in my mind, without even being educated about what they believe or anything like that, I think they're against the West.
Yeah,
The
I
so
would I would have the same thought.
we are in the West.
Mhm.
So how how can we allow that to be? It's like they could potentially harm us, and they're not
Mhm.
a citizen.
Mhm. I think that's the key point. It's like you're here on a visa, you're not a citizen, you're not a US citizen, and you're protesting in favor of a terrorist organization. I don't know, do you really wanna be here? You know what I mean? Like,
Well, they really want to be here, but what do you want to be here
what's your
for?
intention? Yeah, yeah, and
It's like,
why would we risk it? So I think, I think in a situation like that, because then people start talking about like, oh, your right to protest, this and that. But it's like the key point is this person is not a citizen.
well, here's the other thing. When do you have the right to protest?
Hmm.
Peaceful protest. So now here, in order to protest, I could be wrong, but you have to get a permit. It can't be on private property,
Hmm. I think
right?
especially too if it's on a school grounds, I believe it has to be permitted, or you have some sort of permission from the school.
So there's a lot of things that are wrapped up with that, but yeah, I mean, just with knowing that, there's no way. I always say this is that we have to we have to know what situations we put ourselves individually.
Hmm.
So what I mean by that is that I live in Stockton. I'm not gonna go pump gas at 12 o'clock at night, at some gas station around here or something like that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm gonna go, um, you know,
Daylight.
daylight before I come home. I'm gonna stop at a gas station. I'm gonna pump gas and stuff like that. If I really have to, I'm gonna be really careful. But I put myself out in those situations, the
Hmm.
chances and probability of something bad happening are gonna be higher. I'm not
Higher.
saying it's gonna happen, but the chances are. We're
Hmm.
talking about odds.
Hmm.
So growing up, going to house parties where fights would always break out, I was like, hey, every time we go to a house party, there's a fight. And then you hear about someone getting stabbed at some other house party
Mm.
or a house getting shot up and stuff like that. So guess what? I put myself
At risk.
at
Or
risk if I go there. So what
mm,
did I do? I pulled myself out of those situations. When I
mhm,
heard about those, I had a friend that actually got stabbed many, many times
mm.
in his back running away from a situation like that. Um, and we were young. I don't even think we were 21 yet. But anyways, you have to remove yourself from those situations. So the people that are supposed to protect us here in this country, if they don't do that and they increase those odds, especially um, if you're not a citizen, like we were saying, and you're supporting a terrorist organization,
Mhm.
they're doing the right thing, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Thank you for protecting citizens of this country, is what I would say.
Mhm. No, and we've talked about it, a few times with different people here on the podcast is, during because we kind of talked about the border too. It's like during this entire time we've had the Biden administration, it's like we don't know everybody that came in here, you know? We have, 300 people here on the on a terror watch list from somewhere, right? But then you got these people over here that 2 million gotaways or whatever that number was, and it's like, who are they? So I don't think we're at a time where we can allow you know support for a terrorist organization when we don't even know who the hell came in here.
Yeah.
So,
Hey, but you know what? One thing I will say about that person, thank you for showing us who you are. More people stand up and be real, support what you're gonna support. So we know who you are.
Yeah. No,
So
that's that's true, man.
it's like,
But yeah, no, I had kind of seen that. I think it was like from last week. And I kind of just like I said, I didn't go back and look at the full details.
mhm.
So I could be wrong, so I'll just say allegedly.
No, I
You gotta
mean, like
fact
we
check
said,
me.
just with that piece of
Yeah.
information, that's the assumption that
Hmm.
I would
Yeah.
make.
If that's the case based on what we've said, then yeah, that would be our thought on that. Um, but yeah, it's a lot
What do
happens.
you Yeah, I mean, what do you think about this, thought, process is or thought experiment, as some people would call it? No one really likes the example of, the illegals coming into the country and comparing it to an a person that you don't know entering your, like, home, right?
Mhm,
Your house, your home. And, when I've used that example, the people always shut it down real quick because it's like, "No, no, 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 it's not the same thing." It's like you're literally letting them into your space in your home and stuff like that.
mhm,
But I'm gonna suggest something, and based on the point that I just made, is that it's the chances and probability and percentages of things happening.
mhm.
So you let someone into your house that you don't know crimes or good deeds
Nothing.
that they have made. So I'm gonna say good deeds or crimes, okay?
Mhm.
But you don't know them, so you're kinda throwing
Rolling the
dice,
dice. Mhm,
right? So with that being said, are you gonna put yourself at a higher probability in being in harm's way? This person can come in, punk your ass, take everything that you got, matter of fact, kick your ass out, and somehow here in California, they'll make it so that they'll protect them from, being kicked out. But anyways, what would do you think that's a valid example? It's like it's chances, it's
mhm,
probabilities, it's percentages. It's like, do we want to take that risk?
mm, mhm. Yeah.
And
Not me.
and to me, that's a valid, like, reasonable argument to have.
Mm,
Do you see what I'm saying?
yeah.
And the people that defend basically being lawless is the question that I would ask them. I mean, number one, we gotta have law and order straight up. You know how
Mhm,
I feel about that,
mhm.
whether we like it or not. It's like if I do something stupid, I can't say I've been a good person, 47 years, and the law not apply to me right now.
Yeah, yeah.
It doesn't work that way.
No, it shouldn't. It should not. Yeah. It has to be consistent and it can't have gray areas. Like the law is the law, right? But yeah, man. No, I mean, I think, that's a good question for people to ask themselves, is that risk worth taking, you know?
Yeah,
Um you ask me, I would tell you no, I wouldn't take that risk, right? Cuz you're not only it's not, in my situation, it's like, oh, I'm not just putting myself in danger, I'm putting my whole family in danger, you know?
yeah,
And that's immediate, the ones I live with and then, the ones I don't live with too. So it's like, now it's too many people that, I'm putting at risk for this person I really don't know about. I'm not willing to take that risk. I'd
right.
rather protect those that I know and love than try to, you know, I don't know. but but yeah.
Everybody's homework. Ask yourself, do you
Mhm.
have original thoughts? Are your opinions yours? Are they original?
Yeah, yeah. It's a good question to ask yourself.
Leave emotions out of it. And that's tough, man. Making decisions without emotions.
Hmm.
But it's something to think about and something to consider.
Yeah, 100%. So I think that's all I got. Actually, got one more thing. Um, so they had the GOP convention this past weekend, and they basically elected new leadership for the California GOP. And it is I want to say Corinne Rankin. I think I'm saying the name right. So if I'm not, sorry, you can come on the show and correct me. But, I saw that she was selected as the chair now. And the interesting thing, and in all seriousness, I would like her to come on the show so we can talk to her about, what her vision is for the CAGOP, like what kind of plans she, or ideas she has for 2026, and how we can kind of keep heading in the right direction since she's the chair of, you know, the big party out here, the CAGOP. Just to kind of uh see what she's about, because the reason I say that is because there's a lot of people that that I follow and I see, and they like, they're happy about this election, right? There's also a lot of people same that I follow and I respect and I like that aren't so happy about it either.
Mm,
So to me, I think it's an interesting conversation to try to have, because you know there's a lot of people that aren't so happy and people that are happy. So it's like, huh, well, what's the, you know what I mean?
yeah, yeah.
Figure it out. What's the disconnect here? So
And it could be something good, you know? It
yeah.
could be having a split is kind of like what we talked about is hopefully this person has original thoughts and
Hmm.
oh man, but it's so freaking hard to say in politics, not being influenced, but it's like
Yeah, yeah.
if you want to be part of the club, you gotta play the game. So
Yeah. So I mean, if she would, want to come on the podcast, we'd have her on, have a conversation, and it kind of goes into being, maybe we end up being ones. I'm not saying this will happen, but maybe end up being ones that don't, you know, damn, we go damn after, but at least we're able to from her, hear her thoughts, and again, like we were talking about earlier, you know, be comfortable being
mhm.
uncomfortable. And I think someone in leadership should have that quality, because you're gonna get, you're as a leader, you always get questioned, or you know what I mean, like you have to have a
Well,
response.
you're the one that has to. Um, there's a lot of responsibility
Hmm.
in the way that you respond and react to things and address things,
Hmm.
resolve things. So yeah,
Hmm.
definitely a lot of responsibility, and you have to have your own thoughts and opinions, original thoughts and opinions. So hopefully, yeah, you're right that this person is like that. So yeah,
Yeah, so we'll see, we'll reach out and a ver qué pasa. But no, that's all I got, man. uh you know
same.
Same, yeah, same old, same old. Well, everybody, thank you for tuning in. Make sure to like, subscribe, all that, yada yada, whatever. Or don't, whatever you think you should do that.
Just just do your homework.
Yeah,
Who are you,
yeah,
and do you have original thoughts?
yeah. Drop it in the comments. No, no seriousness. No, yeah, it's a good thing to think about. But other than that, where is it? Peace. Peace be with you.
Peace be with you.
Later.